Some mysteries don't just linger in the mind. They echo. They are preserved in time, captured in a recording, leaving us with a permanent, chilling fragment of a moment we can never fully understand. What you are about to hear is one of those echoes. The final words of a young pilot, broadcast over an open channel, as he stared at something impossible in the sky above him. And then, silence. The date is October 21st, 1978. The sun is setting over the Bass Strait, the turbulent stretch of water separating mainland Australia from Tasmania. The sky is a brilliant canvas of orange and purple. For 20-year-old pilot Frederick Valentich, it should have been a perfect evening for a flight. He was a young man with a passion for the sky, with over 150 hours of flight time under his belt. His plan was simple: fly his single-engine Cessna 182 from Melbourne to King Island, a routine 125-mile trip over the water. The weather was clear, visibility was perfect. There was no reason to suspect this flight would be anything but ordinary. At 7:06 p.m., Valentich radioed the Melbourne flight service to report something strange. He asked the air traffic controller, a man named Steve Roby, if there was any known aircraft traffic in his area below 5,000 feet. Roby's reply was calm and clear. Negative, no known traffic. Valentich paused for a moment, then responded. He said he could see what appeared to be a large aircraft, but there was something wrong with it. It had 4 bright lights, which he described as landing lights. It had passed over him at high speed, at least 1,000 feet above. Roby was puzzled. There was nothing on his radar. Absolutely nothing. He asked Valentich to confirm he was in a Cessna. Valentich confirmed. Then, the situation escalated. Valentich reported that the aircraft was approaching him again, from the east. He told Roby that the thing seemed to be playing some sort of game, orbiting above him. His voice, once calm and professional, now carried a clear note of confusion and anxiety. What happened next is preserved forever on the official audio transcript. For 6 terrifying minutes, the world listened as a young pilot tried to describe something that defied all logic. Roby asked him to identify the aircraft. Valentich's reply is one of the most chilling statements in the history of aviation mysteries. He said, "It's not an aircraft." He described it as long and metallic, but he couldn't make out any more detail because of its incredible speed. Then, it was gone. For a moment, there was relief. Valentich told Roby he was going to proceed on his course to King Island. But the relief was short-lived. A few moments later, his voice crackled back over the radio, laced with disbelief. "It's hovering, and it's not an aircraft." The controller, Steve Roby, could only listen, helpless, as the situation in that tiny cockpit spiraled into the unknown. Valentich reported that the object was now hovering directly on top of him. He described a single, brilliant green light and a metallic, shiny exterior. His breathing was becoming audible over the transmission. He was no longer just a pilot reporting an anomaly. He was a man confronting something he could not comprehend. Then, the most terrifying part of the transmission began. Valentich's voice became strained. He reported that his engine was failing. It was rough idling, coughing, sputtering. He was having engine problems. The object, this long metallic thing with the green light, was still hovering directly above him. And then came the final, horrifying sounds. Over the open microphone, Roby heard 17 seconds of a strange, metallic noise. It was described by investigators as a scraping, grinding sound. Unidentifiable, unsettling. It was a sound that has been analyzed for decades and has never been explained. After 17 seconds of that terrible noise, the transmission cut out. There was only silence. Steve Roby called out for him. "Delta Sierra Juliet, do you read?" Nothing. He tried again. And again. The sky was empty. The radio was dead. Frederick Valentich and his Cessna 182 had vanished from the face of the earth. An immediate and massive search and rescue operation was launched. For 4 days, military planes, civilian aircraft, and boats scoured the Bass Strait. They covered over 1,000 square miles. They were looking for anything: a life raft, an oil slick, a single piece of floating wreckage. They found absolutely nothing. It was as if the plane and its pilot had simply been plucked from the sky. So what happened to Frederick Valentich? The official investigation by the Australian Department of Transport concluded that the reason for his disappearance could not be determined. They offered a few possibilities, but each one seems to fall apart under scrutiny. The primary skeptical theory is that Valentich became disoriented, that he entered a graveyard spiral, flying upside down without realizing it. In this scenario, the lights he saw were simply his own, reflected off the calm surface of the water. The theory suggests he was confused, inexperienced, and crashed into the sea. But this explanation doesn't hold up. Valentich had flown this route before. He had experience flying at night and over water. Would a pilot with his training really be unable to tell if he was upside down? More importantly, how does this theory account for the 6-minute conversation? How does it explain his detailed description of a long metallic craft that was not an aircraft? And what about that final 17-second metallic scraping sound? The sound of a pilot losing control doesn't sound like that. Another theory suggests he saw a conventional object, like a helicopter or a weather balloon, and simply misidentified it. But again, air traffic control had nothing on their radar, and no other aircraft were reported in the area. Valentich himself, a pilot, explicitly stated, "It's not an aircraft." He would know. This leaves us with the theory that Valentich himself believed, that he encountered a genuine, unidentified flying object. His own words are the most powerful evidence. He wasn't hysterical. He was a pilot, trying to rationally report what he was seeing, even as it became more and more irrational. He described an object with capabilities far beyond any known technology in 1978, an object that could move at incredible speeds, then stop and hover silently, and apparently interfere with the electronics of his plane. For decades, that's where the story ended, a chilling transcript and an enduring mystery. But years later, a new piece of information emerged. A man, a local farmer, came forward. He claimed that on that very night, he was working on his farm which overlooked the Bass Strait. He saw a strange, erratic green light in the sky, moving over the water. He also saw a small plane, a Cessna, being followed by it. He said the green light seemed to be circling the plane, shadowing it. He watched for a while, until both the light and the plane disappeared from view. He kept it a secret for years, fearing ridicule, but his account provides a potential eyewitness on the ground to the bizarre event Valentich was describing from the air. We are left with an echo, the voice of a young man broadcast across the darkness, describing his final moments. It's hovering and it's not an aircraft. Then, that awful metallic sound. Was it the sound of his plane breaking apart? Or was it the sound of something else? The sound of contact? The sound of an abduction? We will never know for sure. But somewhere out there, in the vast, silent emptiness of the sky, lies the answer to what happened to Frederick Valentich.